This is my Survivor Series 2025 thoughts video. Before I get into the video itself, I just want to mention something about the location of the actual show. It being in a stadium this time instead of an arena really gave it more of a WrestleMania or SummerSlam feel than a Survivor Series feel. And that carried on with the fact that there was no shark cage for the War Games matches, which has become a big part of the whole War Games stipulation and match as a whole, which people love to see the interactions with the wrestlers whilst they're inside it, and what that leads to is like more storytelling and more character development. But there was no shark cages at all for this year's War Games. Instead, it was more like a Royal Rumble. Each person came out individually with their full entrance after a countdown, so it felt more like a Royal Rumble than War Games, weirdly. And like I said, it being in a stadium made it feel more like a SummerSlam than Survivor Series, especially because when the show started, it was very bright outside. So yeah, just wanted to put that out before getting into the show. Our opening contest of this evening was the Women's War Games match of Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and AJ Lee versus Asuka, Kairi Sane, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, and Becky Lynch. Now, when it comes to War Games, there's one silent rule that everyone collectively agrees upon, and it's the only way a War Games match should be done. And that rule is the baby faces always have the disadvantage. They're always a man down, or in this case, a woman down. Should always be the case, because the match itself works better when this happens. The crowd then can get behind the baby faces. The heels can always have the numbers advantage, and then in the end, after multiple heat spots and the baby faces fight back, you can then lead to the finish where the baby faces overcome the heels. This match didn't have that. The heels were at the disadvantage, which meant the baby faces for a lot of the time was beating down the heels, which led to the crowd cheering for the heels to fight back. And when as more and more of the team came out, you got pops for the heels because they're coming to save the day, which completely throws it off. Now, there is one reason that I would say you could do it this way, and that is if there's story to really further in this match, and it only would work if the numbers of the advantage is the wrong way around. Case in point, the Bloodline match with Sami Zayn proving himself. They had the numbers advantage went to the babyfaces, so the heels were at a disadvantage, but that furthered the Bloodline saga with Sami. That worked. This, on the other hand, did not have a story at all. There was no story in this at all for the match, besides really furthering the AJ Becky story, which you could have done without. And really the only story going into the actual War Games part was Charlotte and Rhea finally getting on the same page. Let bygones be bygones. Let's go to war together. That's it. And this match was really underwhelming for me. There was just nothing. It just was in one ear, out the other. Starting off with Charlotte and Asuka, which was fine. But then this again leads to another problem for me, in which the order of who came out was wrong. You may disagree with me, and fair play if you do. It's just for me, it felt weird that the next person was Io, not Alexa. When you've got the one half of each of the tag teams starting out, why don't you have the other partners come out and you get the tag teams fighting? So Io comes out next for Charlotte, then Becky. Why is Becky coming out second? Surely she should be like one of the last people in the match for storyline purposes with AJ, which led to AJ coming out afterwards, which gave us our first and pretty much only spot until the finish, where AJ couldn't go for the door, so she had to scale the cage and dived onto everyone. At this point, they're just passing the time until we get to the actual match starting. With obviously you get Rhea coming out after Nia, and she brings all the plunder. And you would think of all the women in this match, who's getting the last big entrance? Like, who's going to be the last person to join? It's Lash Legend. Now, I haven't got anything wrong with Lash being the last, but this is her first match on the main roster. This is the main roster crowd, the casual fans. They don't know who she is. An AJ Lee or Becky Lynch or even Rhea Ripley being the last person in would get a bigger reaction. Because the reaction Lash got was just nothing. And it might sound like I'm jumping to the finish, but that's just because there's nothing really worth talking about with this match. The finish saw Charlotte pulling Rhea out the way of Asuka's poison mist, which landed on Lash, which compromised the heel's advantage, which allowed Io to climb up to the top of the cage, and with the trash can did her dive after AJ on Rhea's shoulders past the trash can, wiping out all the heels except for one. Becky Lynch is all left alone against the babyfaces. Now at this point, I would do it differently to how it actually happens. What actually happens, she attempts to escape the cage and then gets hit by everyone's finisher, leading to her getting locked in the Black Widow and tapping out, allowing the babyfaces to win. No surprise there that the babyfaces team wins. Where I would go instead is I would actually have Becky escape the cage and forfeit the match. Now that might sound like it would probably get booed because you want a big finish to War Games, but you've done enough of these now on the main roster that you could do one of these finishes. And yeah, it would be a bit underwhelming, but it would fit with Becky's character of a hypocritical midlife crisis sort of heel that's delusional in the way that she thinks she's the leader of this team when she isn't, and it would give storyline purpose to why the heels would hate her afterwards because she cost them the match. But that's just how I would have had it finished. But yeah, this was just a very underwhelming match. Afterwards, we got the Intercontinental Championship match of John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio in both his first title defense of the Intercontinental Championship and his last ever pay-per-view PLE. This was a really solid match and best match of the night for me. Easily the best match of the night, considering what comes next, and I'll get to. But this isn't a perfect match for me, as there's way too many gimmicks in this match. What I mean by that is there was just too many different things happened, too many interference spots or too many cheating spots in this match. which is a shame because the first half of this match was really solid. It was a good back and forth with Dom showing more of an aggressive demeanour to get back his IC championship and that. But the gimmicks started piling up. Firstly, starting with a really good fake out injury spot with Dom hitting a Hurricane Rana off the barricade to Cena and landing awkwardly and really selling it. And it looked like he did legit injure himself at playing off the injury spot the injury that Penta suffered against Solo during the last time is now tournament, which obviously it's not nice that Penta got injured, but it worked for him doing this fake out injury spot. This led to both Raquel and Roxanne attacking Cena behind the ref's back, which was fun, and that works. That works for me, no problem with that. Then we just kept getting, afterwards it was just interference from this point on. We first then got Dom attempting to get the pin, the ref calling him out on it. Then we got a homage to Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 20 undoing his shoe, and we got that spot, which is fine. We then got a belt shot attempt after a ref bump, only for more interference from Finn and JD, who attempt to take out Cena only for them to get taken out by John, which just, you've already had interference by Raquel and Roxanne, why do you need to do it again? So yeah, you could take them out completely. This then leads to the finish of the match, which sees a returning Liv Morgan from injury coming down and seemingly turns on Dom, slapping him and joining Cena, only for her to attack Cena, costing him the match, allowing Dom to pick up the win and become your new Intercontinental Champion. So for me, I could do with the injury fake out, that was a great spot. I could do with the interference from Raquel and Roxanne, that worked for me. And you could do a belt shot. I could do without Finn and Dom, Finn and JD, I do apologise. You could take them out. The homage to Eddie, I could do without as well, personally. And most of all, why are we doing a return for Liv Morgan here in John Cena's last pay-per-view match? Because it overshadows Cena's last pay-per-view match, but then also Cena's last pay-per-view match overshadows Liv's return. And yes, it was a good moment, but you could do this on Raw. You could have saved it for the Netflix first episode of Raw on Netflix next year. You could have done it at any time. I just think there was too much for this match, and it came across as we need to protect Cena in defeat. In his second to last match, I don't think he needed this amount of protection for this. It would have done Dom a lot better if he just beat Cena relatively clean. Obviously, yeah, I don't have a problem with a little bit of cheating, but this much? No thanks. Like I said, solid match, best match on the night, but there was still a bit too much in this match for me. Following the IC Championship match, we got the Women's World Championship match of Stephanie Vacourt versus Nikki Bella. And firstly, Nikki Bella, who had one of the worst match of the year for me at Clash in Paris against Becky, why is she getting a World Championship match now? And when no one could care less about Nikki's heel turn and this return run. This match nothing. It's nothing. It just went in one ear, went in one ear and out the other. It was just nothing. Which is a shame because I feel like Stephanie Vacour should be getting a really good title reign and deserves it, but so far it's been just mid. And that just kind of reflects in the match itself, as it saw Stephanie get the upper hand to begin with before Nikki fought back for a bit after a mistimed stomp on the apron, which allowed Nikki to get, like I said, get the advantage, which then just led to a bit of a 50-50 match before Nikki hits the Rack Attack 2.0 for a close fall, before Stephanie hits two Devil's Kisses, one being on the announce table, which kind of got a pop, but the crowd itself was just dead for this match. They couldn't care less because they'd just seen the Cena match. They're ready for the men's War Games match, which is afterwards. So after a second Devil's Kiss in the ring, it's a corkscrew splash for the win for Stephanie Vacour, retaining her championship. Like I said, nothing wrong with the match. It was fine. It's just it went in one ear and straight out the other. This brings us to the main event of the show, which was the men's War Games match of CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and the Usos versus Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed. This match was dubbed an all-star War Games match, which on paper is true. Look at the talent in this match. It is an all-star talent. It sadly though didn't live up to the expectations, as just like the women's War Games match, it under-delivered for different reasons, but it under-delivered. Which is a disappointment considering who's in the match. With Punk and Breaker starting things off, which was really good, and it was basically for the first 10 minutes the match was just Punk getting beaten up, which worked really well as the heels had the advantage, which just made this match immediately better than the women's match from a psychology standpoint. Then Drew came out next, and it just, like I said, for 10 minutes, it's just Punk getting beaten up, building to who's coming out next, which is Cody, comes to save the day, comes down to even up the odds, and out for a bit, and this is where we get probably the nastiest bump of the match, where Punk and Cody hit a heart attack on Breaker, but Breaker lands right on his head and neck badly, and it really looks like he's a bit loopy. I think it's just where he's selling it for it, but he did look a bit loopy coming off of it, but it was a great spot. Afterwards though, things really cooled off for a while when you got until the end really, as we got Logan Paul, Jimmy and Jay, and Bronson Reed coming out. During this period, when we did get a good spot of Reed hitting a tsunami on everyone when he came out, which really got the crowd a bit back into it, because obviously it's a big spot and everyone loves the tsunami. Problem with this though is that fun spot was completely killed off by Jey Uso coming out, and as he got to the ring, after yeeting all the way down, climbed the top of the cage and started a yeet party, bringing the entire match to a halt, stopping the whole match just to do a yeet spot with the crowd, with the baby faces literally no selling the offense that they just got of the tsunamis and getting up and dancing. For me, this killed the match completely. It really did. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but thank God for Brock Lesnar coming out next, because he really saved this match from being a disaster. Because I felt that for me, that Yeet Party just killed the match. I can't, and it's just, what are you thinking in the middle of a War Games match? So yeah, we got Brock comes out, and Brock does his usual stuff, suplexes, F5s, wipes out everyone, in time for Roman to come out. And this leads to them brawling around the ringside. Brock hits an F5 on Roman through the announce table for a fun spot. It's always good to see. And then we get back in the ring. And at this point, you think, right, the match is started. Cool. It's been a bit, lackluster. It's been a bit mid to begin with. But now that the match has begun, everyone's in the ring, we're going to get 15-20 minutes of just chaos, and it's really going to be saved by this final period. That didn't happen, because the match only went about 5 more minutes, and it started off with really Logan getting brass knucks, trying to wipe out everyone, only for Roman to stop him, get the brass knucks, wipe out everyone as well, before spearing Brock through the through a table, and with Jay on his shoulders, which brings us to literally the finish of the match, which saw the two men that began the match facing off, of Breakker and Punk, looking to go at a brawl, and you think, okay, they're going to go for a bit. No, we got a mystery person, hooded figure, climbing the cage and attacking Punk and hitting a stomp on Punk, which leads to Breakker hitting a spear for the win. So that just came out of nowhere, obviously setting up further in the feud of Breakker and Punk, and teasing whoever this mystery person is to be. But yeah, it's just, what a weak ending to a War Games match. Neither of them led to anything great, and neither of the matches did the one big spot they always do of, here's all the competitors in a line. So yeah, this was a disappointment, and with a very anticlimactic finish, as the show went off the air with the baby faces in the ring, and the 3 main ones being Cody, Punk, and Roman, all getting up and just having an intense stare down, which, just like I said, anticlimactic finish to Survivor Series as a whole. In conclusion, Survivor Series 2025 is just meh. It definitely is one of the worst pay-per-views of the year for WWE, which is a shame. And I wouldn't say it's the worst, because that's WrestlePalooza, but it's definitely down there. And yeah, it's just, from having some, on paper, this should be a great show, but it just under-delivered is the word I would say, especially because since Triple H has taken over creative, he starts the build to WrestleMania from Survivor Series. So this should have been a real bang on the road to WrestleMania starting, but nope. Both War Games matches just under-delivered and had their own problems, which I've gone through. The Cena and Dom match was a really solid match, but that had its own problems as well. And the women's world title match just went in one ear and out the other, and that's just it. I wouldn't say it's the worst Survivor Series either, because it isn't. There's been worse Survivor Series, but it's definitely going to be in the conversation as one of the worst pay-per-views of the Triple H era, I do believe, and one of the worst pay-per-views of the year. So yeah, with that being said, hope you enjoyed the video, and please leave a comment with what you thought of this show as well, and I'll see you soon. Bye.